Okay, well, that title's probably going to get me in a little bit of trouble, but it's never a big problem, and if you're watching this stream, I hope you understand why I made it as it is. So, what exactly happened? Well, first of all, I obviously watched the Eavesdrop podcast, like I'm sure many of you did, that had Crimsix and Hex talking about stuff on it, and I will put the link to it in the description below, so you can go watch it yourself. Highly recommended, fantastic episode, talks a lot about what Crimsix has been through. But in this, he started talking about the fans from the old Optic team and what happened after he left, and I'll now put a clip of it in here to give some context.
I basically felt like 2 or 3 months after that not half, but a lot of the fans that I had playing under Optic were just liking me because
Optic.
because Optic, because I was on the team that they liked, because I was playing with the people that they liked. And for me, it was just like a huge realization of, like, not in a way, it was not like screw those people, but it was just like dude, trust yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need them. You only need yourself.
Yeah.
You only need the people that, are supporting you.
Yeah.
You only need your loved ones. And basically that's all you need.
Okay, as you can see, Crimsix has talking about how he felt like there was a weight off his chest and some various things. He goes on to talk about the ramifications of those fans leaving him and how he felt about toxic fandoms and the salt that was passed around and why he thought people seemed salty, but he was actually just very relieved to not have to deal with it anymore. And the interesting thing, and the reason I made this video, and the title of the video does not come from that podcast, actually comes from Crimsix on the rCog competitive Reddit, because on the rCog competitive Reddit, Crimsix did an elaboration of what he thought and maybe put into words some of the feelings afterwards to clarify to people who have obviously made a comment about it. And rather than backing off, he doubled down, and he doubled down in spectacular fashion, elaborating on what he thought of toxic fans and the fandom, and not specifically just Optic, but this is more or less, Call of Duty wide. So here now is that statement on Reddit. I'm not sure if I said that I am pissed off about losing those fake cult following fans, because if I did, it was my mistake. I was pissed off about losing friends, people I've known for years. In regards to the cult, like I said in the podcast, a weight off my shoulders. The shit I've seen those people do and say is disgusting. Same people who will say fuck you, you're dog shit to opponents going to the bathroom mid-match. Same people who boo and start an internet riot on people behind Optic 2020 for legally purchasing and using the name which resulted in those people that they hold so dearly to make millions. Same people who will isolate a scapegoat on every single team Scump will ever play for. It's never his fault, he can do no wrong. That is literally the founding guidelines for how cults are established behind their leaders. But back on topic. It's crazy to me that these people will make it out to be like he gets costed every year. Consistent luck doesn't exist, so consistent bad luck must not exist either. Just wanted to expand on what I've said in the podcast, and to those people who follow the old Optic squad and respect and like everyone involved, I think you're awesome and love you guys for doing that. And to those who follow the old Optic squad and don't act like respectable human beings, you can go fuck right off, guys. I am glad that you are out of my life. I can genuinely tell you dirty little rats that, mentally speaking, this year has been like a breath of fresh air to me. My life is actually so much better despite what a view account says. As you can see, Crimsix deeply unhappy with some of the old fans that he believed follow him or unfollowed him because of the Optic saga, but it brings a wider point into focus. Now, I will bear in mind that while Crimsix is talking about the old Optic / new Huntsman fans, for me, it's more about whether or not, the wider Call of Duty community and toxic fans in general. Now, it has been said before by many people that realistically, Optic or Huntsman now has the biggest fan base, so we'll have a larger base of vocal, toxic people. But it's not just them, and we'll never figure out whether or not they have a higher percentage of it or not, because there's no way to clarify that. But my video is not just about them. My video, if I'm being honest, is about toxic fans in general, and how in Call of Duty I think they need to grow up and get a grip. It's been something that when I've spoken to pros over the last decade, they've always spoken about, well, I'm always getting these horrific messages, death threats, comments on my life, comments on how I look, none of which are acceptable, because I feel like you can expose your displeasure for a bad play or somebody playing well without having to go beyond the line, okay? Telling someone they've had a bad game or expressing that you don't think they're very good or maybe deserve to be replaced is a criticism, and criticism is fine. I've done it many times in my career, and even then, I'm in a privileged position where if I disagree with something a player has said, I can always clarify or go speak to them personally and explain the logic behind it. Fans can't. So what you get is a certain amount of characters just full of vitriol, and it's even worse when it's one team against another. Things like body shooting, body shooting, which is realistically a super generic, nobody cares bit of banter and disrespect to player mind games within the game. It doesn't mean anything. It never means anything. Alright? Trust me on this. Players do not remember body shooting years down the line. They don't hold a grudge behind it. It's not something they really care about. But fans treat it as if one player has stabbed another player on the main stage and is now pissing on their corpse. Which clearly it is not. And people go way beyond the pale before it, claiming it's disrespectful and even unprofessional to shoot another player's body, which is quite frankly ludicrous because they are professional Call of Duty players and shooting another person's body is very much part of the job in terms of if you want to do it, show respect, ham it up for the crowd, or any one of a million reasons to do it. Very much, while it's not said, oh, in your contract, it is something that goes along with the territory. It's just a thing that happens in Call of Duty esports and at the professional level. I am absolutely disgusted by a lot of the things I see on Twitter and Reddit, because while it is fine to say that a player deserves to be replaced or that their stats are bad, and you may be right, you may be missing the intangibles, and hell, you could just have a bad take. A bad take is very different from insulting somebody's looks, which I do see. I mean, Twitch chat is obviously a write-off regardless. I don't really look at it anymore. It's pointless most of the time. But social media, when you have the ability of these professionals to connect with them in a way that you can't in traditional sports, because traditional sports don't put themselves out there as much. They don't engage on the timeline as much. They don't talk in between players, which is one of the primary methods of it. You get to see a deeper look into these players' lives. So when you inject that horrificness and that toxicity and those disgusting name callings and things into that world, you're just making it worse for yourself, and you probably should be ashamed. I'd like to think that as players get more educated and they become fans of Call of Duty, they drift away from just liking one player and hating other players. Because it's so weird to me for, when you're supporting a player or a team that you have some loose connection to, you can hate players more than the players they're playing against. Players may have real beef. Players may not have personalities you gel and like with. You don't need to say these things to them in that context. You can just ignore them and enjoy what you enjoy, because there is no need to most of the time. Crimsix's situation obviously is a little bit different. He says he believes people only really liked him because of who he played with at the time, and these people have their very negative elements to them. And he says there are fake fans out there, and it's pointless. And why are they like this? Why is this so cultish? And I don't know. For me, I hope that people start to really just enjoy Call of Duty, and you can be passionate and you can love this, but it doesn't mean you have to hate everything else. There's no point system here, right? You don't have to build one person up by tearing everybody else down, right? If you're an analyst or criticising or doing it in a technical point of view, like I have done during my career, very different for me to say, Crimsix has had a very bad few series. He's not playing well in X, Y, and Z, and he is letting the team down in these S&D areas. It's different if I insult him. If I always tell he's trash. If I tell him, that's something I wouldn't do typically at a professional level. And so I don't see why the fans think it's necessary to shit on a player in that regard either. But it was so interesting to me to see how Crimsix put his feelings out there about toxic fans and basically holding them to account and saying, stop doing it, I don't like you, this is not necessary. So I thought, I'll put my 2 cents into as well, highlight this issue, highlight what Crimsix said, and I hope you've enjoyed the video, understand the thumbnail a little bit more now. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.